Primal premiered on Adult Swim last year, 2019, and it only aired 5 episodes, so a very short run, and then like 5 half-hour episodes, and then there's going to be another 5 coming out soon. So they kind of split the first season into 2 parts, and then the next 5 are coming out soon. I think one of them already premiered, just sort of like as a one-off like special event kind of a deal, and so that one's there. It exists somewhere, but it only aired once, and then there's 4 more coming. So I'm going to be reviewing the first 5, so the first half of season 1. But I was not aware of that. I thought this was like the whole thing.
Yeah.
But yes, there is more coming. So Genndy Tartakovsky, you may know, is the creator of Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack. He's the director of the Hotel Transylvania movies, and kind of a mainstay in animation, and has been for a while. He has, I guess, done most of his career over at Cartoon Network, and I grew up on that stuff, right? Dexter's Lab was huge for me when I was a kid. I was a huge fan of that show. I was never a big fan of Samurai Jack, though. In its initial run, I kind of slept on it, and then a few years ago, I think I may have reviewed it for this show.
You did,
but I kind of came to it late. So they were releasing this new season of Samurai Jack, the final season on Adult Swim. And I thought, now's a good time. Let me watch it. So I started from the beginning and watched all the way through, and I loved it. And this is very much in that vein. So don't go into this expecting Dexter's Lab. And I think if you see a trailer for this, you'll know that.
The trailer is badass. I was watching it before the show.
Bonkers, man.
Yeah.
It is crazy town.
Punching people in half.
Yeah, it's insane. So this is very much like Samurai Jack level storytelling.
Yeah.
So, if you guys are familiar with Samurai Jack, you know that Jack doesn't actually talk very much. He's voiced by Phil Lamar, but he has, maybe 1 or 2 lines per episode. Very minimally, and then the characters around him talk more. Like obviously Aku, voiced by Mako, was huge, and he talked all the time. But Jack himself was a very quiet character. So you'd have these episodes which were essentially like 30-minute or 22-minute action sequences in which there was no dialogue. There's grunting and panting and running and breathing, but there's no dialogue, and this follows that same sort of pattern. So Primal is really about 2 characters. In the scripts, I believe they are called Spear and Fang. So Spear is Neanderthal, and he goes out one day hunting and gets a whole catch of fish, and he's taking them home. And as he's arriving home, it's a very disturbing sequence where he arrives home and realizes something's not quite right. He drops the fish and runs into this field, which will then sort of open up into where his home is. And as it opens up, he sees these dinosaurs attacking and eating his children and his wife. So like you actually see like a child in silhouette, but a child being picked up by the hair by a dinosaur, tossed up in the air and like spinning until the dinosaur just chomps, and then the blood spilling out of the dinosaur's mouth.
Oh my God.
And so it sets the tone very quickly, like what you're about to watch. And again, if you watch the trailer, you kind of know you're in for a really rough time, because this is like bloody as it gets.
Wow.
And like I had the feeling that Genndy was like, look, how bloody can we be?
Yeah.
And Adult Swim was like, very.
Pretty,
and he's like, all right.
I got the feeling watching the trailer.
On that.
I was like, oh yeah, he's in some peril, and they're like, oh, he's punching these dinosaurs pretty hard. And after a while, like he's a big feature of the trailer is him gouging the heck out of a dinosaur's eye, and he's almost got it down and killed. And then another dinosaur tackles it while he's still on it. And I was like, yo, this is crazy.
It's insane, man. And so like Genndy, I think initially, let's tell sort of what life may have been like way back when, but he very quickly I think very smartly steered away from some sort of historical accuracy because he introduced a character named Fang. So Fang is a female Tyrannosaurus Rex who has two pups. I don't know what you call baby T-Rexes. Two baby T-Rexes, and the same dinosaurs that ate Spear's family attack Fang's family and kill her children as well.
Man, isn't that crazy about about animals and dinosaurs and just in general? You're just like they all hunt each other, but they're definitely, if you watch any nature show, even David Attenborough will be like, yes, if they don't have to do the work to bring down the adult, they will not. They will eat the babies.
They will not do it.
For sure.
Exactly.
Every time, actually. They're not...
without fail.
They have zero honor.
That's a weak prey.
Right, exactly. I saw a video the other day. There's a fun Instagram account called Nature is Metal. And every day they post some like graphic video of something that happens to an animal. And the one I saw the other day, and they always have these effed up captions. And this one was like... I don't know what it was called, but it was like it was a snake that had caught a mother rat while its baby rats were suckling it. And it ate all of them slowly, and they're just hanging on to their mother's, nipples trying to get milk. Yeah. And he's just going like, and they're just going like, up in there. And then as soon as he swallows them, he turns to the person filming them almost like, what are you looking at? And he just slithers
you next
up the tree. it's like, oh man.
Yep.
They don't care.
Rough.
Yeah. Snakes don't go, oh my God, these are babies. I probably shouldn't. They just go, that's like 3 times as much rats as I expected to catch today.
That's tasty, dog. Yeah. So Spear and Fang bond over their mutual loss. And so what you have is essentially a caveman riding a dinosaur. And so I think Gindi was like, Gindi was like, you know what? The timeline, historical, whatever. This is a cool idea. And so it gave way to a lot of like really off the wall stories. Like there's an episode in here, I think it's called like Rage of the Ape Men or something like that. And then there's one that's all about these giant like man bats that just like swoop down out of the sky and like eat these people, these like, I guess lesser evolved people, and like
Neanderthals or something.
Yeah, and he's like, meow, and just they like swoop out of the sky and like take them and like rip them apart and like eat these people, and it's like really messed up. And so anyway, the point is like, so the story is Fang and Spear, they form a bond and a friendship, and they go on these adventures together, which is all about like, hey, how do we survive in this scenario? Cold. We're in the tundra or whatever, and we're cold. How do we live? Oh, look, woolly mammoths. Maybe we could take one down and steal its fur. It's like it's survival, and it just so happens to be that you're watching, a caveman and a dinosaur, and they don't speak because they don't speak.
Right.
But what you get is like, I think if you're interested in, and Samurai Jack did this really well. If you're interested in stories that have emotional depth, but also, but they also have like really intense action. I think this is for you. If you're really interested in action cinematography in animation, like how do we tell action? How do we do that frame by frame? And this is like a masterclass in that, and Jack is too. But this is phenomenal. The animation is gorgeous. It's beautiful. The colors are fantastic, and the effects animation, all of because there's a lot of blood and a lot of splashing in water and environment animation in tall grass and all this kind of stuff, and it's all just so beautiful. The character designs are fantastic. They're reminiscent of Samurai Jack for sure. It's definitely Gindi's style, but it's just so beautiful. but it is incredibly violent. So this is not something to let the kids watch. Like you can't expect to do that. Again, watch the trailer. You'll get a good idea of what you're in for. It's incredibly violent, incredibly bloody, and the last episode of these 5 is incredibly gory. So if they're all bloody, this one's gory. Like this one steps it up.
Yeah.
And but they're all so well told. These characters are deep, and even without dialogue, you get a sense of what's happening. So I'll give you an example. It's in the first episode, so it's not a huge spoiler. Spear comes home and finds his family being eaten by dinosaurs. His wife, his 2 sons, and their blood all over these dinosaurs, and then what follows after he gets to safety is him going into their home, into this cave, and finding cave drawings that they've done of the family. I guess maybe the kids did them, maybe he did them, I'm not sure, and wiping them out and crying, and then he goes up to a tall point on this rock face, and he gets to the edge, and you just know what he's about to do is just and commit suicide.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't. And so that's the level of storytelling we're getting here. It's impactful, it's emotional, but it's very raw, and it's very, archetypal. It's, this is a man who provides for his family. And yeah, I mean, you're not going to get any huge backstory or anything like that. I mean, it's all limited to just what do we know? We know he's a guy, we know he has a family, we know he watched them die, and now he's trying to survive, I guess, to sort of move on with his life and honor them, and that's it. That's really all you get, and that's really all you need. So it's minimalistic storytelling. It's maximalistic, if that's a word, maximalistic violence. And action, and action, choreography. It's just so great to watch. I'll say, it can go overboard. Like if you're sensitive to the violence, you may also be turned off by it. But there's some really great moments, thinking especially of the final episode, which I said was very gory, right? But the first half of it is really tranquil and serene and just beautifully animated and kind of moving. And so when it gets to that gory part, it's almost earned, because what's great about it is, and Samurai Jack did this really well too, and this sort of heightens it, is Gendy's able to find what maybe Led Zeppelin would have called the light and the shadow. It's let's give you a little bit of the light, and then we're going to go into something dark. But when it's over, we're going to come back into the light. And so it's not fully dark all the time forever, like something like The Walking Dead, which is just like an exercise in how much darkness can you take as a viewer.
Right.
This is light and it's shadow, and they work in equal measure so that you don't get burned out on either, but that the light feels like a reward for getting through the shadow, and the shadow feels like it puts you in the mindset of the characters, where there's a constant threat of being hunted and being, killed, that's sort of breathing down your neck. So you can't take a huge pause ever. So anyway, here's the thing. Primal, first 5 episodes, they're on HBO Max. Again, this is not all that there is. There will be coming. But normally I would hesitate to review an unfinished series or even an unfinished season, but because these were released in 2019 and there's such a huge gap between the next 5, even though they're billed as one solid season, I'm going to call it 2 seasons,
right?
And so
installments
for these 5. Yeah, for these 5 episodes, it's a beautiful masterclass in storytelling through action only,
right?
And through character performance only, and then it's also a masterclass in animation itself. So if you're interested in anything from character design to, all the levels of animation, even to scoring. Like, everything here is fantastic. I think where we're going to differ is your level, of tolerance for violence, blood, and gore. I think that's where it's either going to win you or lose. Primal. You know what? For these first 5 episodes, I'm going to go ahead and say like 4 stars, 4.5 stars. Like, this is really good. This is, like I said, just top of the top in terms of animation that is artistically created, and seemingly without any over by a network. It seems like they just gave Genndy like the keys to the network and said, do something for a half hour.
Right.
And he was like, okay,
cool,
I'll do it. And this is what you get. So this feels totally like Genndy, and very weird that this can come from the same guy that did Hotel Transylvania.
Right.
But such is life, right? Everyone's got interests. I know, like, he loves Popeye. I think he's working on a Popeye film.
Wow.
And he tried that before, and then it got shelved, and I think now he's back on it. So you know what? Anything that Genndy Tartakovsky touches, I will see, and probably enjoy, at least to some extent. And I think he's a solid filmmaker, and this proves that too. So Primal's great. Check it out as long as you can stomach it. Again, watch the trailer, see if it interests you, and then move forward.
We always try to pay respect to people who can tell a story on, more than just the level of I remember in college, like, where they had us make like a silent short, and the entire idea was, can you tell a story without people talking? Can you do it without dialogue? Can you tell a story purely visually? Yeah. And then there's similar exercises with, I'm sure, with radio students or whatever, like, not so much these days, but can you tell a story in which you have 0 visuals to assist you? Can you tell it completely with sound? And it's always a tip of the hat to somebody who can tell a compelling story with little or no dialogue. I'm trying to think of the last thing I could. I mean, we mentioned this with Samurai Jack whenever you were talking about it. It's ringing a bell for some reason. But also, I think we talked about Matt Reeves and how good he is, and how I remember when it was announced he was going to be directing the Batman, my first thought was, there's a whole lot of nonverbal storytelling in the Planet of the Apes movies, and that's Matt Reeves all over. So whenever you have someone who can create something and accomplish that, that's always that's where they're producing something where you can't look away. You can't look away. You can't follow the story. You can't look at your phone. You're engaged.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. This is one of those things, like, you can't be doing something else. Yeah. It's like watching titles. So you need to be keyed in. And so, it is that same way. And another thing that we learned in school was, you should be able to watch a film on mute and understand what's happening. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, that speaks to this too. It's how do you tell a story with no dialogue, but just through action and shot composition and score. Like, well, I guess you'd take score out, but shot composition and body language and that sort of, how do you tell a story? And this does the same thing. I mean, yes, it has, score to, promote your feelings in certain areas, and it has, sound effects and grunts and breathing and whatnot, but the story is all there through shot composition and through performances. And so I recommend it. It's great.